Okay. Let me make sure. I think we're live. Let me check the feed here. Yep, looks like we're live. Okay, awesome. Cool, that worked. I'm using OBS to stream rather than my normal Hangouts on Air. So, looks like it's working. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay, if the volume needs to come up, if it needs to come down, whatever. I've got my OBS settings pretty good, I think, but just let me know and I can kind of switch stuff around as we go here. So, yeah, okay, cool. So, hello everyone. Welcome to A Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt. First off, happy holidays and happy new year, everyone. I don't think I've had the chance to say that to people yet. I hope that everyone enjoyed the end of the year festivities, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, or whatever you were up to. I hope that you had some good times with friends and family, and that you found some time for peace and quiet and contemplation. That is always my jam at the end of the year. Cool. I sound and look beautiful. That's great. Yes, happy new year, everyone. Cool. I'm so glad that people are showing up. So I don't want to do a ton of preamble here. I just want to kind of jump into it. This is campaign crafting, and if you are a friend of the channel, if you've been a friend of the channel for a while, you probably remember my video series, Campaign Crafting, which was a series that I started. Geez, it was like 3 years ago. It may have been 4, but I think it was 3 years ago. And it was a series that I initially intended to be about 6 or 7 parts. And I think I did 3 or 4 episodes and then stopped doing it. And it's always been a thing that people ask about. Are you going to do campaign crafting? Are you going to finish campaign crafting? And it's something that Hey, Vince. Vince is here, everyone. If you're a friend of the channel, you also know Vince. And his meows. I should probably close the door, actually, so that he doesn't bug us. Give me 1 second. Let me kick my cat out, and then we can continue. So, sorry, everybody. All right, Vince, I love you, buddy, but you're so loud. Okay, come on. Yep, out the door. Out the door. Okay, good boy. I'll see you later. Jeez. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. Also, I apologize for the mess in the background. I'm currently redoing my downstairs yet again. I'm installing a new desk for my wife and stuff down here, so things are a little crazy and messy, and you can see the packaging for the desk back here, and there's a bunch of tools and stuff out. So anyway, I never finished campaign crafting. It was a series that I really enjoyed making, but one of the issues that I was having with it was that as I was making the series, I was kind of having this thing where I was rethinking how I was doing things, especially with prepping for campaigns and world building and things like that. And I started to feel like I couldn't continue with the series because I was rethinking a lot of the stuff that I was saying. And so rather than... Well, and the other thing, too, that I was thinking... Sorry, I'm going to ramble a little bit. I know I said that there wouldn't be any, but... Other thing that I sort of realized was that, if you're new to the hobby, or if you are just sort of delving into creating your own homebrew campaign, if you're moving from running modules or whatever, that having a 6-part video series called How to Make a Campaign is daunting and would probably turn a lot of people off of creating their own campaigns. So what I'm going to attempt to do here today in this video is, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching, the uploaded video after the fact, what I'm going to try to do in this video is I'm going to try and lay out sort of the groundwork, the foundation of a campaign that can then be built upon through collaboration with players. So the idea here is not a video series, but one video with which we can build a campaign. I'm coming into this completely no ideas. I don't even know what world we're going to plan this campaign for, because you guys are going to help me. So we're going to come up with the pillars of the campaign, talking about the tone, the big aspects that we want. We're going to talk about a starting location. We're going to talk about the nearby locations. We're going to talk about important figures. And finally, we're going to talk about mysteries and intrigue. So so it should be pretty fun. I'm going to do some screen sharing here so that you guys can see what I'm working on. Here we go. Get ready. It's going to be a fancy transition. Oh! There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I switched over to another. This is why I'm doing this in OBS, because I'm trying to I'm trying to get it taken care of here. So I had my Yeti turned off on this scene, because in OBS you have scenes or whatever. So anyway, okay, I fixed it. I'm a professional. Don't question his motives. Don't question his methods. He's a beautiful genius. All right, so we've got our sections here: campaign pillars, starting location, nearby locations, important figures, mysteries, and intrigues. So what I'm thinking is we're going to take a few notes up here, up top, of just some stuff. Let me zoom in here so you guys can see a little better. There we go. Okay. Actually, let me do this a different way. We're going to zoom in 200%. There we go. That's perfect. Okay, so we're going to kind of take some notes about what we want to do here. So the first thing we need to decide is what kind of world are we planning this campaign for? Are we I don't necessarily want to talk about building a world from scratch here. I want to talk about, you've maybe got an idea for a world and now you're planning your campaign. So do we want to plan our campaign in something, campaign setting like Forgotten Realms? Do we want to do Aeronoth? Do we want to do Gloam? Do we want to do Enkea, Dragongrin? Do we want to do Kror? Like, what are people feeling here? I'll kind of get a feel for it in the chat here. The only tools I'm coming to the table with here are... Oh, by the way, I just got my Steam controller today. I haven't set it up yet, but I'm very excited. I got it on sale during the Steam Winter Sale. I have my trusty Rory's Story Cubes here. So those are... I've done a few videos on these, but they're basically dice with just little images on them, which are intended to sort of... they're intended to spark inspiration and give you ideas just based on the images. So if we ever get stuck, if we ever need ideas, which I don't anticipate happening because I have all of you here to help me, then we can do that. All right, so in the chat looks like we have a couple people actually talking about Estia. Okay, that's interesting. I hadn't even considered that, but I'm super down with that. Okay, yeah, do you guys want to do Estia? Okay, a couple people saying Kror. Okay, a lot of people saying Kror. Oh, Philip Maddie says Harbinger. All right, interesting ideas here. So for original setting. Okay, yeah. All right, well maybe okay, Estia or Kror. Man, both sound good. Estia or Kror. So for those of you who don't know, I don't expect everyone to watch every video and know everything about my channel and what I do, but Estia is it's sort of a Greek setting that I run games in sometime. I don't have any published material on it, but it's kind of a fun setting that I run games in sometime. And then Kror is, you can actually watch some Kror games on this channel. Kror is like Dark Sun. It's very like heavy metal, post-apocalyptic fantasy, kill or be killed, the greatest quest is survival sort of stuff. So Kror is like sword and sorcery, low fantasy. Estia is like high fantasy, like mythic fantasy. So we've got mythic fantasy on one hand and we've got sword and sorcery on the other. I think we should roll for it. So I've got a D6 here, and I think on an even number, we'll go with Estia, and on an odd number, we'll go with Kror, okay? So even, Estia, odd, Kror. 2. So we're going with Estia. Sorry, Kror guys. Maybe I will do this again with Kror, okay? So we're going to run our game in Estia. Mythic fantasy inspired by ancient Greece. So, like, it's like mythical heroes, the gods are present, etc. Okay? So, we're going to do Estia. So, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about campaign pillars. Now, this is session 0 stuff. Now, what do I mean by session 0 stuff? I mean, ideally, you might talk about this kind of stuff with your players. So if you're getting ready to run a D&D game or an whatever your preferred RPG is, I will probably be referring to D&D most often because that's my system of choice and that's what I run games for. But you're getting ready to run your D&D campaign, and you decide to hold a session 0, basically. And the session 0 is a really invaluable thing. Session 0 is everyone getting together, getting a feel for the table, maybe rolling up their characters together, and talking about the campaign and what they want out of the campaign. So it doesn't have to be anything super specific, but it's just kind of the big picture ideas. Like, what are you guys interested in doing? What sort of campaign do you want this to be? Because there are so many different styles of running a game out there that it is kind of important if you're running for a group that you can sorry, my phone's going off, that it's good to sit down with your players and talk about it, just so you make sure that not only are you running a game that you want to run, but that your players are invested in it as well. And if they're helping sort of develop the ideas behind the campaign, then they'll be even more invested. So session 0 is something that I like to do when I'm running a campaign. And in fact, I did a session 0 for the Provoker's second season, Bleak Wrath. And there's actually some clips from that up on the channel somewhere. I think I shared those. But so yeah, Josh Bingham asked, do you have any games played in SGA in your channel? I don't have any SGA games on my channel, but there's actually one of my prep videos. I think it's the second or third prep video that I've done on my channel is actually I'm prepping for a game in SGA. So far I've only run SGA for home games, but so let's talk campaign pillars, right? So campaign pillars are like, what is the tone going to be? What level are we starting at? Is this going to be a game of, is there going to be a specific story? Are we just going to sort of be exploring? Is it going to be a little linear? Is it going to be more sandboxy? What do we want to have the focus of the campaign be? Do we want to be adventurers? Do we want to be heroes involved in some greater conflict? Do we want there to be political intrigue? Just things like that. There's so many different types of fantasy and so many different types of games that you can run that it's important to kind of nail down what you're interested in first thing. So let's have a session 0, me and you guys here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a campaign pillar, something big, something, a big picture idea. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but just kind of a cool idea that I have. I'm going to put a campaign pillar down, and then I'm going to pick one from the chat as well. And then I'm going to put another one down, and then I'm going to pick another one from the chat. And we're going to do that maybe 5 or 6 times until we have a good feel for what the campaign is going to be here. So I'm going to do one. You guys can kind of watch me do one, and then I want you to put your own in the chat, and I will be picking them from the chat. So for the first campaign pillar, I want to do discovery. Delving into the ruins of an ancient lost civilization. Artifacts, buried secrets, and lots of traps and guardians. So I really like the idea of, and I'm going to go ahead and bold this. I really like the idea of, in an ancient Greek setting, having a ruins of like a pre-Greek society there. And in Estia, it's not specifically ancient Greece. It's a peninsula called the Golden, what's it called? The Golden Embrace, the peninsula of Estia. And basically some orcs came down from the north, subjugated all the peoples of this peninsula, enslaved them, and through their enslavement, through adversity, they developed a common language, they developed the pantheon of the gods, and they told these mythic stories to help themselves, rise up. And in doing so, they rose up, rebelled against the orcs were driven out, and these people established their society, this society of city-states. So very similar, if you're familiar at all with ancient Greek history, very similar to kind of the big picture ideas of ancient Greece and how those city-states came to be and how the culture was influenced by that. So, discovery. Delving into the ruins of an ancient lost civilization. They're going to be finding artifacts, buried secrets. There's going to be lots of traps and guardians. So, I really like that idea. So, let's see here. All right. Ooh, what happens if the fates go missing? Calamity. The hubris of the king brings about the anger of the gods. I really like that. Aliens. To me, nothing says ancient Greece like maritime trade. Lots of coastal island locations, travel by boats, and separate cultures that mix. I like that idea a lot. Diplomacy. 2 different factions in a civil war. Ooh, man. Good ideas, guys. Good ideas. Survival. Slave revolt. Something to do with the underworld. Competing discoverer that always seems to be one step ahead. The fates are my favorite part of Greek mythology. Investigation goes great with discovery. Have the players learn more about the lore. Survival. Gods want to kill non-gods. Divinity. Gods walk among the people, often fornicating. You can work to achieve immortality through labors. Awesome. Sirtaki asks, is SGA made up of a number of city-states like in ancient Greece? Yes, it is. And we can talk more about that as we go here. I don't want to spend too much time thinking about the world. I really want to focus on the campaign crafting aspect, but we are going to be sort of leveraging some of those ideas through here. So, all right. So I'm going to pick one of these here. I might actually pick a couple because there's some good stuff here. I really like this. The Fates, or our version of the Fates, go missing. What sorts of turmoil, conflict would arise from such an event? So maybe we can tie in the missing fates into the need to delve into these ruins for whatever reason. Okay, we're not worrying too much about how everything fits together. That kind of comes later. I say this a lot, but prepping a campaign is a lot like setting up a board game you don't know how to play yet. Just get the pieces on the board, man, and figure it out as you go. You're not gonna really be able to discover all of the nuances and wonderful little conflicts and interactions and things that happen in the campaign without playing the campaign. The most important thing you can do to build a campaign is start playing in that campaign. So we're gonna keep this very simple, very light. Ooh, a god is found dead. That's really cool. Let's see here. I really like, where is it? Yeah, Jeremy, Erasmus Expeditions, Maritime Trade. So we'll do Maritime Trade. Journeying along coast and down and up, down rivers by boat. So we get, what does he say? Lots of coastal island locations. Yep, island locations, foreign cultures, stuff like that. Okay, cool. So that's awesome. All right, let's do one more. I'll throw one more in here. I am thinking cult to non-pantheon deity. I don't know why, but I really like the idea of there being maybe not a big bad necessarily, but sort of an antagonistic presence that has to do with a god, a deity, a demigod, some sort of divine presence that isn't part of the Eschylean pantheon, right? Not part of the Greek pantheon of gods. And there's this cult that is devoted to this god. So, devote zealous followers worshiping a non-pantheon god, divine presence, seeking a way to spread their influence. I really like that idea. Let's see what else we got here. Ooh, Jeff Doty's got a good one. Related to missing fates, some major important prophesized event fails to come to pass as foretold. I really like that idea. So, a major prophecy goes unfilled. All right. So this is a really good like starting point here. We've got a lot of good stuff here. We've got an idea of what the tone of the campaign is going to be, right? We've got an idea of what the major sort of big overarching conflicts are. Now, the important thing to remember is like this stuff won't necessarily come into play specifically with the party unless they decide that they want to get involved in it. What we're doing here is we're creating context. We're creating a backdrop. It's really important when you're building a campaign and you're setting up the board to have there be conflicts, characters, things that don't directly involve the player characters unless they choose them to, because it makes the world seem really lifelike. It makes it seem like the world is breathing. Things move and change and shake without necessarily the PC's involvement, and that makes it really important. It's like, the PCs come back to a town that they've been to a dozen times before, and someone they know has been murdered, or a building that they used to go to is burned down, and it's like, whoa, what happened? It's like, well, the world keeps spinning even if you're not there. And that can seem a little bit overwhelming, especially if you're not used to running campaigns, especially homebrew stuff. But it's just as simple as just keeping these things in mind. And so moving forward, as I flesh out our starting location, nearby locations, important figures, and our mysteries and intrigues, I'm going to be thinking about these campaign pillars. Not necessarily how to directly bring them below and involve them, but just what sorts of things would be developing and happening when this is our backdrop, when the fates have gone missing, when the maritime trade is booming, when there's this cult that is gaining prominence on the Eestian Peninsula, as our characters are discovering these ancient ruins, lost civilizations, things like that. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. Okay. So, starting location. All right. So let's think about this. So, starting location, the obvious sort of like the thing that springs to my mind here when we're creating our starting location is I'm looking at this right here. I'm looking at maritime trade, and I'm thinking maybe our starting location is a port city or a port town, right? Someplace where boats are coming in and out. There's a lot of trade happening, a lot of different cultures, just tossing the players into the deep end. Like, welcome to Estia. Here's every culture in Estia represented in this town. So let's build our starting location. Let's think about this. So we're going to do Port City. We're going to come up with a name for it here in a little bit, which is basically it's going to be a coastal market at the mouth of a large river. Okay. Let's think here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put some question. Who runs the town? What are the sights, the sounds, the smells? Let's think about the presence of different factions, cultures, and where does the campaign start? So let's think about that. I see Sirtaki says, we need our version of Sparta. So in Estia, and I know this is tough because I have all of this in my head, but you guys don't have this information available. But Sparta in Estia it's a dwarven culture. The dwarves are the Spartans. And they're all about like protecting the rest of Estia from the orcs returning. That's sort of their deal. So they're kind of like Spartans and the Night Watch like combined. Here we go. Xanos Nightshade. I vote Evamiria as the city name. That is so Dope. So we're going to say Evameria. Hopefully you're not pulling my leg, and that doesn't mean like dick cheese in Greek. Okay. Yeah, and I'm not keeping up with the chat as well as I should, but you guys are coming up with some good ideas here. So, all right, so let's talk about Evameria. Evameria, it's a coastal market at the mouth of a large river. The various city-states of the Aegean Peninsula route many goods and exports through Evameria to be distributed across the Sea of Talus to the High Elves and island cultures of Estia. All right, so Evameria. Coastal market at the mouth of a large river. The various city-states of the Aegean Peninsula route many goods and exports through Evameria to be distributed across the Sea of Talus to the High Elves and the island cultures of Estia. Okay, so let's think about who runs the town. I like the idea. So in Estia, the halflings are like the businessmen, the merchants. Halflings view like politics and business as like a game. Like they see it as the best game you can play. It requires so many different skills, and it requires a sharp mind and a sharp tongue. And so halflings are really good at sort of negotiating, being merchants. They're kind of shrewd, but they're crafty. And it's very often that you'll come to a city-state that is run by humans, that's run by elves, whatever, but they'll have halfling advisors there who are sort of like their Grima Wormtongues. So I think that Evameria is controlled by an independent council of halfling business people who founded the port as a way to deliver goods and services across the Sea of Talus. Let's name this council. Let's say the Silver Circle, an independent council of halfling business people. The Silver Circle might already be something. I pulled that out of a deep place in my brain. So if that's already something, let me know and we can change it. Ooh, knowledge is a major export. I love that. I love that. Let's put that, as well as many goods. Knowledge is a chief export of Evameria. A secretive guild serving the Silver Circle. Let's say the Whisperers. The Whisperers. A secretive guild serving the Silver Circle. Act as spies and information brokers. So this is cool. So I'm going to go ahead and, as I'm going here, I'm going to bold stuff that is important for later on. Right? So we've got Silver Circle and we've got the Whisperers. So remember, I'm not going to flesh everything out as much as I'm fleshing out Evameria, but this is our starting location. This is like, the player characters are at least going to spend the entirety of their first session here, if not several sessions, and Evameria might become like it might be like a home base for them. They might keep going back to Evameria to offload goods. They might have like NPC contacts, things like that. Cool. Ooh. Lighthouse that shines like a moon rather than a sun. I love that. That's a really good idea, Philip. We're going to put that in here. Call it the Tower of the Moon. A lighthouse that sheds silver moonlight. Really cool idea. So let's do sights, sounds, sensations. That's like if you guys have the Xanos Nightshade, the Lunamarium. Evameria, Lunamarium. Evameria and Lunamarium are a little too close sound-wise for me. If you have foreign scholars visiting Evameria, it lets you have those scholars point the players towards distant adventures and exotic treasures. Totally, totally. That's really cool. Ooh, Circle of Coin. I like that. Yeah, I like that. Circle of Coin. Circle of Coin. Cool. Sight, sound, sensation. So this is just going to be like stuff that we can kind of point to, right? Tower of the Moon, a lighthouse that sheds silver moonlight. Someone mentioned they wanted a library here. Let's make a library. Let's say like let's call it the. All right, let's think here. I don't know why, but why is, or what if the library moves? I don't know how, but what if the library isn't in one place? What if it moves around? So maybe it's like a traveling library that like sets up like booths, like a market, or maybe like it's on the water. I really like the idea of a library that moves. So let's think about that. Maybe it's maybe the library is like, well, maybe not a ship, but maybe it's like on an island that is somehow like disconnected and it's kind of like floating around in the harbor. So let's call it the. Oh man, now you guys are getting crazy. On the back of a giant turtle. I love that. Oh, that's kind of dope. Sort of fits with like ancient Greece too, right? Like having like mythic, like we're talking mythic here. Let's put this thing on the back of a giant turtle. I love that. And like the turtle is like the ultimate keeper of knowledge, and he knows that he's in charge of a library. And you have to like take a boat out to it, right? Because it's in the harbor. Yeah, so it'd be like a dragon turtle, but it's like a giant mythic turtle. Oh man, okay, cool. All right, so let's call it. So I like the drifting library, but we can come up with a better name for it too. Let me open up another tab here. I always look up things. Let's see. I love the word Athenaeum, but again, Evameria, Athenaeum, there's too much crossover in mouth sounds there. Honestly, like drifting library is pretty cool. What do you guys think? Let's get your thoughts here. His name should be Bob. Lion turtle and giant library. Yeah, lion turtle from Last Airbender. That's cool. Yeah, a lot of people say just call it the library. I kind of like that too. Like just it's not a library. It is the library. Yeah. The Driftwood Tomes, that's cool. I should figure out a way to like put the chat on the screen so that people who watch this later on can look at it. Let me see if I can figure that out really quick. Just give me 1 second here. I'm just trying to figure this out. So let me add a window capture. Okay, window capture, and let's try that. Nope, that super doesn't work. That doesn't grab the chat. Okay, that's fine. I'll figure that out later. I think if I used a browser other than Chrome, it might work, but I don't want to mess with it right now and take a bunch of time. So, man, you guys have a lot of good ideas. I really like the library. Just calling it the library. It's simple. The PCs can remember it. It's arrogant. It says everything it needs to say. Like, this is the library. The library. And maybe it has a longer, more flowery, more official name, but everyone just calls it the library. A massive library housed on the back of a giant turtle. I love that. And I do like the idea of like portions of the library like actually being inside the turtle shell. I really like that idea. Giant, I want to make this clear, sapient turtle. This turtle is wise, man. He knows what's up. All right, let's come up with a couple other things here. Let me see. Let's say that, let's come up with like a meeting place here. There's a tavern/inn called the Stone. Let's call it the... Okay, so I like the idea of an inn or a tavern being housed in like an old coliseum. So it's like an old fighting ring. So it's got the like the stone walls and the seats and everything, but it has like sailcloth and wood, like driftwood, like rooms and stuff. Ooh, public bath. That's a good idea too. Everyone's super excited about this turtle idea. Oh, yep. Jeremy, Erasmus Expedition says the turtle's name is the Librarian. Yes, it is. Absolutely, it is. All right. And again, guys, like all these cool ideas you're having, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want to be have happening. But you want to keep it simple. You want to keep it surface level because you want to be able to delve in and explore these things yourself. You don't want to set too much in stone. You write the library. It's a massive library housed on the back of a giant sapient turtle. When the PCs decide to go there eventually or end up there somehow, then you get to explore it with them and you get to decide, yeah, his name is the Librarian. He's the keeper of all knowledge. The books have like a special coating on them that protects them from the seawater or something. Like you just come up with all this stuff. And yeah, I love that. Okay, so I really like the idea of this sort of common like meeting area being a bathhouse, because that was really big in ancient Greece. So I really like that idea. So let's say the bathhouse. We'll come up with a name for it here, but it is a meeting area frequented by locals. where drink and rumor alike pour. Cool. All right, so let's I like the idea of this having a name like the prancing pony, but making it like a Greek creature of some kind. So like so let's think. Let's see if people have ideas here. The steamy nymph. I love that. Steamy nymph. All right. The steamy nymph. I also like the idea. So historically, bathhouses were for the wealthy. They were for the nobles, right, or the people that were politicians, people that were important. I like the idea that the steamy nymph is like everyone can go there, like everyone can afford to have a drink and a soak in the bath. And it's one of the things about Ethemeria is that people smell good, man. Like people actually bathe. And so it's not like you're walking into a medieval town, you know, in medieval Europe and everyone just smells like poop and death and rotting teeth. Everyone's clean. Everyone's pretty put together. Like even the people that are working the docks are, you know, they're clean. They're clean people. They go and they take a nice bath. They take a soak. And I love the idea of it being working in some of the... I love the bathhouse stuff in Spirited Away. Have you guys seen Spirited Away? I love the different mixtures they put in the water and all the different amenities and stuff they have. Not as nice as the bathhouse in Spirited Away, but just the idea of all these creatures going to a bathhouse and coming together. There's you know, all these different species, and I love that idea, and having the different mixtures going into the water and stuff like that. Someone mentioned Jeremy mentioned no weapons in the bathhouse. Yeah. No weapons allowed. I love that idea. Cool. Oh, man. Aaron has a good name for it, too. The Triton. I really like that. Do I like the Triton more than the Steamy Nymph? I sure do. The Triton. Bathhouse and meeting area frequented by locals where drink and rumor alike flow abundantly. No weapons allowed. Cool. Awesome. All right. Let's see here. Sirtaki says, actually, in medieval and Renaissance Europe, the nobles smelled much worse than the common folk. Yeah, because they just refused to bathe. It's crazy reading about that, man, and how, kings would just be they would just smell awful because they would never bathe. They'd bathe, once every 2 years. Xanos Nightshade. To be fair, Matt, the Japanese bathhouse was traditionally a brothel as well, so maybe not a Spirited Away bathhouse. Okay, but the bathhouse in Spirited Away was not a brothel, obviously. You know, well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's some fan fiction out there about it being a brothel, I'm sure. All right, Tower of the Moon, the library, the Triton. I want to come up with one more thing here, and I want it to be not a location. I want it to be something else. So I'm going to talk about spears. The spear is the primary weapon in Ethemeria, used for both fishing and defense. Town guards and fishermen alike wield distinctive multi-pronged spears. So that's something you can work into your description, you know, you know, you see, you notice that the many people here in Evameria are carrying these sort of distinctive two-pronged spears that appear as though they're like they're a little bit more hefty and solid fishing spears, and you see that both fishermen and the town guards are carrying these spears. Kyle Stonebreaker says, spears, not tridents. Yeah, they're kind of like tridents because they have multiple prongs, but I don't like the idea that they're like big, like, three-pronged trident, like Aquaman-style tridents. Yeah, Captain of the Guard carries a trident. Yep, definitely. Captain of the Guard carries trident. All right, cool. Plus, like, in Estia, spear and shield was, like, that was the way you fought in ancient Greece. And that's, like, in Estia, I don't allow people to wear heavy armor. They wear light and medium armor, but there's different shield options, including big tower shields, and you can use, spear over the shield and stuff. So spears and shields are much more valuable in Estia because you don't have that heavy armor to be able to wear. All right, cool. So let's see these other questions here. Presence of different cultures and factions. So let's talk about really briefly cultures and factions. So let's say that there's the Circle of Coin. There's the Whisperers. There is a ooh, okay, here we go. Hang on, someone said something cool. I can't say your name. Repotsirhik says, the ground should be really chalky, giving for naturally white roads. I love that. Ground is naturally chalky, making for bright white roads. Hot springs. Cool, I like that. We're also going to say that there's like some guilds here. There's got to be guilds here, right? Ooh, I love this idea. Anastasia says fish druids. Love that idea. So we'll say Talus. That's the sea. Talus. We'll call them Talus Sea Keepers, and they're fish druids. So we'll say fish druids. They're like going out and blessing the water, like praying for good fishing harvest, things like that. Sirtaki says, we need to know where the city is. In the mainland? It's on the mainland, yeah. We say it right here. Coastal market at the mouth of large river. The various city-states of the Aegean Peninsula route many goods and exports through Evameria to be distributed across the Sea of Talus to the High Elves and the island cultures of Estia. So it's on the coast of Estia, of the peninsula. Let's come up with a couple more here. I want there to be an elven presence. So we'll have the Hejeti, because the high elves live in Egypt. They live across the sea in this desert region called Hejet. So they're the Hejeti elves. So the Hejeti consulate is going to be there, and they're going to be the high elf presence. Yeah, Cult of a Sea Goddess. That's awesome. Yeah, should have a prominent monster race. Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. I actually think so. I like the idea that Merfolk are like prominent here. What do you guys think about that? And I think like maybe not like walking in the streets, but like they're so close that they have dealings with the town of Evameria, and so you don't necessarily see Merfolk walking around or anything like that, but you might encounter them. So I like the idea of Merfolk clans being like in the harbor and stuff like that. Josh Hull says Dragonborn Presence. Absolutely. So the Dragonborn in Estia are going extinct. They lived on this island called Zertal, and Zertal like had volcanic eruptions and all these calamities, and the Dragonborn they're sort of spread out everywhere. So there wouldn't be a huge Dragonborn presence, but because they're so close to the island of Zertal, I really like the idea of there being a guild or a faction called the Reclaimers. Dragonborn clan. All right. Circle of Coin, the Whisperers, Talus Seakeepers, the Hegedi Consulate, Merfolk clans, and the Reclaimers. So that sounds like a band, but it's cool. So we're gonna just like keep it there. Ooh, I love this. Jeremy says maybe there's a sunken portion of the city. I'm gonna real quick come up here and just say sunken portion of city, because we're gonna talk about that in nearby locations, I think. All right. All right. And obviously there's a lot of other things in Evameria other than this, but I'm just like thinking like, what are the cool things that I want to come up with now that I want the players to know that is here? You know what I mean? Okay, so where do we start? Adventurers arrive in Evameria by boat. They are waylaid by Merfolk en route. Combat ensues. Sets up adventure hooks dealing with Evameria's tenuous relationship with the Merfolk clans. That's not how you spell tenuous. I needed another U. All right. Cool. All right, so let's talk about nearby locations. So nearby locations, things that I like to think about in terms of nearby locations. And I should mention this. I talk about this freaking book all the time, but seriously, how good is Keep on the Borderlands? So, all right, when I plan a campaign, when I think about a campaign, I use this book because what does this book do? It gives you a town. It gives you a town that you start in. You arrive in the town. The town has a bunch of different NPCs, factions, locations you can go to, things you can buy, plots you can undertake, and then it has what's around the keep. There's the Caves of Chaos. There's all this stuff happening. There's different monsters. That's what I think about when I plan a campaign. So we have our town. We have our starting town. Now we need to continue with this Keep of the Borderlands trend, and we need to come up with what's nearby. These are our adventuring locations. And in fact, that's what we should call them. Not nearby locations, but we should call them adventuring locations. Okay? So we want ruins. We want caves. We want things that we can explore and adventure within. All right? So, adventuring locations. So, first of all, I really liked Jeremy's idea of the sunken area of the city. So, let's come up with that. So, we'll call it the Drowned District. A large section of Evameria that fell into the sea around the same time as the calamity that took the island of Zertal. Yeah, I love this. it has become a sanctuary for some of the more violent Merfolk clans who have been exiled by their brethren for instigating war with the cultures of the peninsula. So, the Drowned District, it's a part of the city of Evameria that fell into the sea during the calamity that took the island of Zertal. So Zertal, earthquakes, volcanoes, there's this horrible calamity, and at the same time, working in the idea that this was widespread on the coast, this big section, this big chunk of land just collapsed into the sea, right? And a lot of this, a huge portion of the city of Evameria was on here. And so it's part of it's underwater, part of it's like half underwater, but I like the idea that there's like certain Merfolk clans that are being more aggressive and violent towards, so maybe that's like up here we have like they're waylaid by Merfolk en route. Those are the Merfolk that they're waylaid by, or the Merfolk that are hanging out in this Drowned District, right? So I really like that idea. So that immediately we're like, boom, hey, here's a first session right here. Like, showing up in Evameria, exploring a little bit after getting waylaid by Merfolk, getting a feel for the Merfolk, and then, meeting an NPC and finding out that, not all Merfolk are bad, but there are some bad ones, and we think that they're living in the Drowned District, or whatever, what's going to be a lot better than that. But just the idea of, like, they can go to the Drowned District and check it out. All right. Kind of similar, I guess, to, like, the dredges in Provoker's Bleak Wrath, where you have like the dredges who are kind of like hiding out, just trying to like, we'd really like to not be slaves anymore, and the dredges who are like, we're gonna do this violently. So I like the idea that like there are some bad Merfolk, but most of them are just trying to make a way for them, trying to make a space for themselves in the world. All right, I want a shipwreck. We gotta have a shipwreck, right? So, ooh, here we go. All right, we're putting this in. Aaron just came up with this. The Plains of Pergama. Ancient site of a great battle. The restless spirits of slain soldiers wander these blood-soaked plains. Many ancient treasures await those brave enough to contend the restless dead. I love that. Good job, Aaron. All right, so let's come up with a shipwreck. Ooh, here we go. Jeremy's going with it. A site of lots of shipwrecks. Yes, sir. Let's call it... Hang on, I'm having a... Hang on. The salt tombs. Numerous wrecks. Numerous wrecks against a sprawl of jagged stone and coral spires. Many of the ships have been skewered. say this was the site of a last-ditch offensive by the orcs in ancient times. The remains of their armada entice many adventurers with the promise of gold and enchanted arms. Said to be, I saw what Ben Fisher said, and this is something that is cool. Is you know, in an ancient Greek and like a high mythic sort of setting, the idea that there aren't a bunch of, you know, minotaurs. There's one minotaur, right? And I like the idea. I like that idea. It makes them more mythic. I like that the Salt Tombs is like a it's like a one thing. It's like a mythical monster. So I'm thinking, like, it's easy to go with like a kraken, but I also I don't want it to be a kraken, because if it was a kraken, it'd be like, well, we're never gonna go over there then, because we don't want to fight a kraken. But what about like ooh, sirens? People are saying sirens in the chat. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. The home of sirens and sea hags. Or. Yeah, I love that. Let's say, said to be the home of the alluring sirens. And we're going to capitalize that shit. And the sirens are, they're beautiful, and they're pulling people into it's kind of a, so in like Greek mythology, right, the sirens lead ships to their deaths. I like the idea that the sirens in this already killed a bunch of ships, and they're leading a bunch of adventurers to their deaths. Who are much more than their beautiful appearance might suggest. Okay. Okay, cool. Lots of cool ideas, guys. Here's the thing, man. Like, you guys are coming up with so many ideas. You guys are planning a campaign. This is, anybody can do this. It's so fun and simple. This is like, it's so fun. Like, by the time we're done here, we'll probably have 3, maybe 4 pages of notes for a campaign. And that's really, man, that's all you need. Like, that's so much stuff. That's so many ideas. And from here, you can prep your sessions. This is kind of just like, you know, starting out. What do you want to run? What kind of locations do you want? This is like a nice top-down view of your starting area. And maybe you branch out. Maybe you go to other locations. Maybe Evameria is only, you know, the site of your first few sessions. But the thing is that this is so much to go off of. You can prep so many sessions with just this information, and it's really helpful for you as a game master to have that top-down view and that idea of what's around this city, you know? All right. So, coming back to our campaign pillars, we have Discovery, Missing Fates, Maritime Trade, Cult to Non-Pantheon Deity. So, we've got a lot of Discovery, we've got a lot of this Maritime Trade. Let's try and work in some of this, the Missing Fates and Cult to a Non-Pantheon Deity. So I'm going to work both of these things in. and have a Temple of the Fates. Once a beautiful... once a site of reverence to the Fates, and people mourning, saying farewell to lost loved ones. This temple has recently fallen into disrepair with the sudden disappearance of the Fates. That's a horrible run-on sentence, but we're just getting it out here. A cult to a strange and unknown presence has taken root in the shadows of the old temple. From its marble innards, they plot and scheme and worship their vile master. So let's come up here to cultures and factions, and let's have that the strange cult. I don't know what its name is, but we just have the idea that there's a strange cult involved. Ooh, the marble in the temple is changed to black, yeah. The fine white marble of its exterior has shifted to a deep, flat black. Cool. Oh yeah, Ben Fisher says, easy hook. People can't mourn their loved ones. Yeah, perfect. Like, someone's like, I'd really love to go up and mourn my dead husband, but I can't because there's a crazy cult up in the Temple of the Fates, and it's turned black. I don't know what the problem is. All right, cool. Very nice. So we've got some good adventuring locations here. All right, so let's roll through these next two sections here. We're coming up. We're gonna. I've been going for about an hour here. So let's get our important figures here. So let's think about this. We need a. We need like merchants. We need like a prominent fisher guy. We need a let's do like a town guard sergeant. That's not how you spell sergeant. I'm an editor by trade. And let's do a let's do some guild and faction leaders. And I think that's probably good, because the thing is that we're not really we're not creating every character that exists in Evameria. You know, you can prep those characters and kind of come up with those characters on a session by session basis, or improv them as they come up. But we want to come up with like some prominent figures that we can work into this story. So a merchant. Let's say that there is a Dragonborn merchant. No, that's a little too similar to something else, isn't it? We'll do something different with the Dragonborn. I have an idea here. Let's have a high elf merchant from across the sea in Hajet. She deals in arcane supplies. Somewhat mistrusted by the more divinely attuned Estian people. We always want to think about what people want. She wants to earn enough coin to afford passage across the Sea of Talus for her children. So she's selling stuff in the in the marketplace. She really wants to earn enough coin to afford passage across the Sea of Talus for her children, or she seeks alternative means to get them to Evameria. All right, prominent fisherman, Dragonborn fisherman. He's an old Dragonborn with dulled scales and a prominent limp. The Reclaimers have long tried to enlist his aid, but he refuses to help. The past is the past, he says, and Zertal is gone. The time of the Dragonborn is over. But what does he want? That's the it'd be kind of fun to play with this and have it be like this fun dichotomy where he doesn't really believe in the Reclaimers' like motives, but okay, just bear with me here. He is secretly in love with a fellow let's not make it too weird, but maybe a So, I know it's really easy to give, like, NPCs, like, these really lofty, epic goals. Like, he wants revenge, he wants to, he wants to reclaim his past, he wants to save his wife, he wants to, but what if he's just a Dragonborn with a crush, man, and he's just kind of this old, awkward Dragonborn, and he's in love with someone, and he doesn't really know what to do about that. Everyone's saying another Dragonborn is boring. I agree, man. I want to make it weird. He's secretly in love with a Merfolk woman. There! I did it, okay? He's a Dragonborn. He's got the hots for a Merfolk, all right? That's what's going down. And then that plays into the conflict with the Merfolk. It's juicy. All right. Town Guard Sergeant. All right, someone had a good idea for the Town Guard. I'm going to go up here. here we go. It was Aaron again. Aaron, you always have good ideas, man. Human Guard Sergeant. I'm gonna spell it wrong. Oh, I spelled it super wrong. Okay. For some reason, Sergeant is always a hard one for me. It's because I always spell it like this, and it's not that. It's this. There. Human Guard Sergeant who harbors a deep hatred for merfolk. All kinds. He is young and brash, but dedicated. His heart is in the right place, but his mistrust and hatred for merfolk is impeding, is souring his heart. So he's like, I love the idea. It's so easy to make like town guards evil people or like jerks. I really like the idea that he's like deep down he's a good guy, but he has this weird hatred of merfolk, and it's like it's making him a worse person. He's letting his hatred like override the good parts of him. Make him now, and it'd be really easy to like we could say like let's see here. The reason why he hates them. Okay, this is just hear me out here. As a boy, his father, a fisherman, lost his boat when merfolk attacked him on the water. The father lived, but spent the rest of his life trying, rest of his life living in squalor, and could never afford to replace the ship. He died considering himself a failure. The young, I'm gonna spell it right, Sergeant holds a grudge against them. So it'd be really easy to be like, oh, merfolk killed his parents, or merfolk killed his wife, or whatever. But I really like the idea that, like, no, just my dad lost his boat to merfolk, and he was never really able to buy another boat. Like, that was he spent every coin he had on that boat and wasn't able to, get another one. All right, let's come up with one more here. And the thing is, man, is that like we have a lot here, right? We've got 3 pages of notes here, and you just kind of keep expanding this if you want to. You can't. That was a really gross burp I just had. Hang on. Sometimes you have a burp and it's just like, oh, it just tastes gross. You could run a campaign with what we've got here. But what you can do is you can kind of keep this as like a living document. And if you come up with new non-player characters, new locations, you can just kind of keep adding to it. But it's important that you don't over-prep. And I say that a lot, but it feels unintuitive. But if you're writing a ton and you're prepping a ton and you're feeling really inspired, stop. Let some of that inspiration, that creativity, let some of it kind of build up in you. And if you write down everything, if you write down every single idea, then it's almost like you have too much to go on. You know what I mean? So I'm not explaining it very well, but just the idea of like, it's for the same reason why you should try to keep your prep to just the essentials, just the stuff you need, and improv around it, because there's like a diminishing return into how much prep you have versus how much you use. And if you spend a ton of time prepping a ton of ideas and a ton of characters and a ton of encounters, and you have all of this stuff in front of you during the game, it's like, it's too much. It can be too much, and it can actually make you less capable of running the game. And obviously, you know, everyone's different. Some people like to prep a lot. Some people like to prep very little. Some people prep nothing. I'm somewhere in between, and I find that for me, the sweet spot is prepping just enough where I feel like I'm excited to run the game, and I have some other ideas brewing in my head, but I've got the sort of essentials, the general ideas down. So great ideas, guys. Like, really awesome ideas. And I'm sorry I'm not responding to every comment. There's a ton of I'm actually not sure how many people are watching right now. Because I'm not in a hangout, so I can't tell. Holy crap, are there seriously over 100 people watching right now? That's awesome. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. That's great. That's really great. Oh, weird. It says 47 minutes. I've definitely been streaming longer than that. That's weird. I'm just getting the hang of this OBS streaming thing. This newfangled software, the OBS. So, let's come up with one more here. All right, let's see. So many good ideas, guys. Like, run it yourself, man. Like, take what we were writing here and take your ideas and boom. It's a campaign, man. That's how easy it is, and it's so fun. All right. Guild leader of the Circle of Coin, a halfling called Silvertongue, wanted to have the guild called the Silver Circle, but couldn't convince the other members, and now has a chip on his shoulder. Oh, that's funny. Gnomish merchant prince, trying to influence local politics, shaking hands, kissing babies, and has a plan for the drowned quarter. A Dragonborn archaeologist that is part of the Reclaimers, searching for lost artifacts to press a claim on a certain part of the city. Really good ideas, guys. Really cool ideas. Library, yeah, I really like the idea of having a librarian representative. So let's do that. Let's have a let's do a okay, I got an idea. Now, the reason why this would be kind of interesting is because orcs are very looked down upon, because they invaded, and there are not a lot of orcs in this setting. And so having a representative library be a half-orc is an interesting idea to me, because they'll be kind of like remote, right? Because you can't just get to the library. You have to take a boat out there since it's floating around on a turtle. And I really like the idea that the representative of the library is a half-orc. I don't know why. I just like the idea. Maybe it was raised by the turtle. She is an orphan, descended from orcish invaders. The librarian raised her. She is a living repository of knowledge and lore. Her somewhat brutish appearance belies an intense intelligence, wisdom. say she comes to Evameria to represent the interests of the librarian and seeks protection from something sinister. Connect this to the strange cult. I love the idea that, like, the turtle sees something coming. Right? The turtle sees the reality of this cult and what's happening. And he sends a representative on his behalf to basically be like, hey, listen, I know we got problems with the Merfolk and there's, you know, sea hags or whatever, but listen, there's something big coming. There's something bad coming. And it's tied to the disappearance of the Fates. Now, you're probably wondering at this point, the Soul Keeper of the library is a giant turtle. So you're probably wondering, like, why don't we know what happened to the Fates? Why aren't we writing that down? Why aren't we figuring that out? Because we don't need to know right now. It's not important. We're putting pieces on the board. We are playing a board game that we don't know the rules to yet. All we're doing is setting up the game. We're putting all of these pieces on the board, these factions, these characters. All of them have goals. All of them have motivations. All of them have a place in the world and can interact with each other. We have a Dragonborn fisherman who is in love with a Merfolk and a town guard sergeant who hates Merfolk. We have a half-elf merchant who wants to bring her children across the sea, but it's dangerous, right? And all of these things, all of these locations, we have this cult, we have guilds, we have, you know, foreigners, the Hejeti consulate. We have all of these things that can interact with each other and that can have conflicts, can bounce up against each other, can create conflict. Have I said conflict enough? That's what plot is. Plot is conflict. We're putting pieces on the board, and we get to discover how they interact with each other along with the players. It is so important. So many people prep for a campaign, and they write a story that they then want the players to just play out for them. And that's one way of playing, man, but that's not the magic of role-playing games. The magic of role-playing games is when you, as a game master, as a dungeon master, discover things along with the players. When you're surprised along with the players. When the players do something unexpected and you get to work around it. Yes, this is the world that you're building. Yes, you're in charge of what happens for the most part. But never, ever forget that this is a collaborative storytelling tool. That's what it is. And if you can limit yourself, if you can create a box and say, I'm not going outside of this box yet, if you can do that, you will be rewarded later on in the campaign because you will have set yourself up to uncover secrets along with the players and say, oh, it'd be cool if this guy and this guy, you know, had a thing, or if this guy wanted the artifact, but this guy got there first. It'd be cool if this faction sort of started going after the Merfolk too for whatever reason. Put the pieces on the board and then step back and figure it out together. That is the most important thing. That is why we're not going into super detail. That's not why we're not fleshing everything out. That's why we're not figuring out what happened to the Fates or how the cult is connected to that. We're just saying they are, and we'll figure it out when it's important. I hope that makes sense. Like, if you were writing a movie or writing a book, you wouldn't necessarily do it this way. But role-playing games are a medium all their own. And the way that story and character and plot and conflict work in a role-playing game is not the same as how it works in a movie or a TV show or a book. It's better. Because you're doing it together. All right. Now that I've waxed poetic long enough, let's do the mysteries and intrigues here. So these are questions. These are questions that you want answered and that the players can uncover. So the first one is, What happened to the Fates? Why are they gone? And what are the consequences? What prophecy failed to happen? What are the repercussions? Why are the exiled Merfolk clans attacking ships? What do they want? What else? What else? What answers await the adventurers within the ruins around Evameria? Who is the deity worshipped by the strange cult? And how are they connected to the disappearance of the Fates? All right. Here's one that just kind of popped into my head. Who truly controls Evameria? Because on the surface, Evameria is controlled by the Circle of the Coin, right? But what if that wasn't the case? So, 90 minutes, right? About. And we have the foundation of a campaign. This is not an entire campaign, because you don't write out an entire campaign. You don't write it like an adventure module and go, okay, I'm ready to run it. You build the foundation and you build upon it together. All right, so this is just some cool ideas, man. That's basically what this is getting some ideas out there, putting the pieces on the board. You get your pillars set up first, and ideally you do that in a session 0 so that everyone can contribute. You come up with a cool starting location with lots of intrigue, lots of different things for the players to interact with. We've got this awesome library built on the back of a turtle. We've got the Triton. It's a bathhouse instead of a tavern. I love that. We've got some cool cultures and factions that we can flesh out later. We've got an idea of where do we start. Here's our session 1 right here. We've got some cool adventuring locations that we can visit. We have some important figures that the players might interact with. And we have some questions that we want to discover the answers to. So, that's about it, man. And you can obviously write as much or as little as you want to, but I like to keep it to just a few pages if I can. Keeping it simple, keeping it light, keeping it flexible. I want to be able to improv around this. I want to be able to have the foundation and then build the framework with the rest of the players. Can I make any more analogies? Board games, building foundations? I think we're good. I think you guys get the picture. Obviously, this is not, a foolproof method that's going to work for everybody, but try it out, man. Try limiting yourself. Try just keeping it light, keeping it simple. Come up with some cool ideas and jump into a campaign and discover the answers to your questions along with your players. I didn't even need these Rory story cubes, man. Oh, Lord. You guys had enough awesome ideas. So, all right. My voice is going out. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me for a while and coming up with this cool campaign idea. I might go ahead and just share this document out if you guys are interested on the Fistful of Dice Facebook, as well as my Twitter. The links to those are down in the description so that you can look at this document. And, hey, if you want to run it, by all means, go for it. I would love that. I think that'd be really cool. So, yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I'd love to stick around and chat with you more often, but I got to get some other stuff done. So I might do more of these with other settings, but for now, this has been Campaign Crafting Reforged, creating a campaign from the ground up, just very simply and very easily. So thanks, guys. Take care, and happy gaming all. Let's see if I can figure out how to stop streaming here. Stalling for time. Here we go. There's a big red button that says stop streaming. Take care, everybody.